Hi, my name is Brianna. I'm a Help Me Grow intern and I help with community outreach.
And my name is Kaylee. I am the lead community liaison here at Help Me Grow, and so I oversee the outreach in the whole state and then cover a couple of counties up towards Salt Lake.
So today we're going to talk about screen time. I remember growing up that I actually watched a lot of television with my family, but it was always kind of a family thing. We always had it on in the background when we were playing and hanging out. We always had it in the background when we were making family videos, so we definitely had a lot of screen time growing up.
And for me growing up, it was a little bit different. So my mom worked when I was young, and I spent a lot of time at a babysitter. And I honestly do not remember that babysitter having a television, so I spent a lot of time outside, a lot of time playing. But it's kind of funny, as my mom stopped working as she had more kids, and comparing my very young years to my brothers. Obviously, the screen time in general has gone up. Part of that's due to the fact that there are more screens now. Mm-hmm. There are phones and tablets and just lots of different things.
Mm-hmm. So American kids today actually have screen time for 5 to 7 hours a day. And that's, that's, like she said, cell phones, TVs, that's everything. And while we're talking about this subject today, we just want to point out that not all screen time is negative, but it is suggested under 18 months to not have any screen time. And that after 3 years old, it can be beneficial to have educational programs being viewed.
So, Brianna, you mentioned that recommendation. I think a lot of parents have probably heard that. But what are some of the reasons behind that recommendation? Why is it so important?
So, one big reason that we came up with was that it can affect language development. So children learn to talk and communicate through interactions with other people. So when they're spending their time, watching TV or watching the iPad, they don't learn those things. The second is kids who have high exposure to screen time have higher risk of obesity. And this is because, they're sitting, they're not moving around and playing like they should, and they're more likely to just be eating and not realizing it. The next is it's really bad for their sleep. There's so much going on about how parents shouldn't be getting screen time before bed, and that's the same with children.
That makes sense. Right before we jumped on to do this, we were talking to some of our parent support specialists who were mentioning that in a lot of their conversations with families, sleep can be a big question. Parents have a lot of concerns about how well their child is sleeping, getting them to stay asleep, stay in their own bed. And one of the things that consistently comes up in those conversations is the amount of screen time that child has, because it really can affect the child's ability to go to sleep, for their brain to calm down, and then just the ability to stay asleep as well is also affected.
Yeah. So it also affects how they make friendships. When a young child is spending all their time in front of an iPad instead of hanging out with their teachers and their friends, their empathetic abilities are dulled, so they're not catching on normal social cues. The next one is that screen time can affect their creativity. Kids have much stronger imagination and the ability to entertain themselves when they have less screen time. It also can increase violence. When you see aggressiveness on TV or on iPads or whatever, they're going to be more aggressive.
Another thing we get a lot of questions here at Help Me Grow about is behavior. Parents are really concerned about their children's social emotional health, and they want to make sure that their kids are behaving in a way that's expected for their age. Mm-hmm. And another thing that comes up in those conversations is screen time, because like Brianna just mentioned, kids' behavior can be affected by what they're watching, but also just an increased level of screen time can affect your child's ability to accept transitions and to move on to the next activity. That can be really hard when they're used to just watching something for so long.
Yeah. So the last one is that screen time can be habit forming. So the more likely your kid is to watch screens at a younger age, it's going to be really hard to get them off them when they're older. I talked to some moms when we were planning this Facebook Live, and one mom said that her son gets angry and mean when she takes the iPad away because they didn't do those boundaries at a young age. Another mom said that this is one of the kinks she's working out, is when to turn off the iPad, when to turn off the TV. And that's great that she's setting those boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries are really important, because if you can give kids a clear picture of how long, whether that's using timers, so they physically have a representation of how much longer they can be on the iPad or the TV, is really helpful. So kind of some real talk though. Obviously we know that screen time is not all bad. And parents are really busy, and sometimes it's just what you need for some sanity and to get things done is to allow your kids to have screen time, and there's a lot of great benefits. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the pros of screen time as well. And if you guys watching have any reasons why you enjoy screen time and why it's helpful for your family, please tell us. We want to hear the pros and the good experiences you have with it as well. So we did ask multiple moms when we were preparing for this, kind of some of their views on screen time and the pros about it. And one mom shared this experience that she actually has an at-home salon. So it's very important for her to be able to have work time and have her children be entertained. And so sometimes her child will get crabby and bored just playing with the toys that he has. And so if she's able to have him watch a show for that half an hour that her client is there, then he's entertained, she knows that he's safe, and she can get done what she needs to. Another thing that we want to keep in mind is that there's a lot of great educational programming out there when it comes to screen time, whether it's apps or TV shows. We know our partners like PBS at KUED, they have a lot of great programs for kids, and if those are viewed in moderation at an age that's appropriate for kids, they can be great at teaching different skills, giving them examples of things that are going on in the world that they might face. So that's another reason. One other mom told us that one pro that she sees to screen time is that it actually gives her daughter very needed downtime. So instead of just going, her daughter can kind of sit, take that time to relax, and just make some decisions about what she wants to watch. And it's good for her to take time for herself.
Totally. So what are some of the things you can do instead of screen time? We came up with a little list. The first one is, of course, go outside and play. This is like one of the biggest things. I remember growing up, we were always outside, taking walks with our dogs. We'd play imaginary play outside, so that's really important to do.
And obviously coming up with things you can do inside too. Here in Utah over the weekend, it was really rainy, and so I'm sure going outside wasn't necessarily an option. So whether that is things like singing and dancing, or even having your kids help with household chores or different projects around the house can be a great alternative to screen time.
Another one is doing science projects or crafts at home. We have an awesome Pinterest page, so if you check that out, you can get lots of ideas. My sister, she actually had her kids at a very young age, like organize and clean their bedrooms. Of course, at a young age, they weren't really able to clean well, but establishing that at a really young age, they now love to go into their room and organize their toys, make their bed, so that's a good one too.
And that's one thing, like Brianna mentioned earlier, how screen time can be habit forming. Things like incorporating chores or things like that into daily life can also be habit forming. So it sounds like for her kids, those are kind of habits now. They're just used to it. So that's a great thing. And then another thing that I actually loved to do growing up was playing dress up and any sort of pretend play where you're really getting your kids' creative juices flowing. So whether that's having things on hand like a toy kitchen or like dress up clothes or things like that where they can use their imagination to come up with their own games and things like that. I know for me, I am the only girl in my family and I just grew up with younger brothers. So one of my favorite pastimes as a child was dressing up my little brothers like my little sisters that I didn't have. And for me, that's actually a really funny, fond memory, and being able to look back at those pictures of my little sisters is really funny. And then kind of like we talked about, there are definitely times where you as a parent are going to need to get things done. And you're going to want your kids entertained and safe. And so if you're looking for alternatives during that time to screen time, you can do things like having them read books, coloring pages. I was talking to one Help Me Grow family a couple of weeks ago where this mom was explaining to me that she actually has a home office and where she split it down the middle, and actually her and her husband installed a little gate and fence thing where on one side it's the mom's area where she has all of her work stuff and where she can get things done, and on the other side it's a toy area for her children, so they can be in the same room. Her kids can be playing with toys and things that she knows are safe, and then mom can be getting her things done, and it's actually worked really well for her family right now. And yeah, so she just had a lot of success with that. She is aware that at some point they might not like it and they might be able to crawl over the fence, but for now it works great.
That's a great idea. So the last idea we came up with is coloring. That's something I remember doing all the time when I was little too. I feel like kids don't do it enough today, so that's a good one. Just to wrap up, I'm going to give you what the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests with screen time. The first is for children younger than 18 months avoid it altogether, like I mentioned earlier. Second is children ages 2 to 5, limit screen time use to 1 hour per day. The third is for children ages 6 and older, place consistent limits on time spent. The fourth is designate media-free times together, such as during dinner. And fifth is have ongoing communication about online citizenship and safety, including treating others with respect online and offline.
Awesome. So really quick, we did have a question come in, so before we finally wrap up, Lillian asks, for children that are younger than 18 months and that can't read or probably entertain themselves, what are some other good things that you can do to keep their attention for a while? Brianna, do you have any suggestions for that?
So a great one is just playing with blocks. That's a great one that young kids love.
Yeah, no, that's really great. I'm thinking about some of the families that I've worked with in Help Me Grow and some of the things that they do to entertain their children. It is just giving them simple toys that they can play with, even if it's just things around your house. Say you give them a big bowl from your kitchen and a wooden spoon and have them pile things in and out of the bowl. It's something that's going to keep their attention for a long time. They're toys that you've identified that they can play with, and just making sure that they're in a safe area while you need to get something done is really important. So
that's a big factor, is just always making sure they're safe. Always keep that in mind when you're coming up with these at-home games.
Yeah, definitely. And like Brianna mentioned, we have a ton of other resources here at Help Me Grow to help you out with coming up with alternatives to screen time. We have our Facebook page, obviously, we're always posting ideas and articles. We have a fantastic Pinterest page that is full of lots of fun activities, some of which you've seen here on Facebook Lives before. And then our parent support specialists are always available to talk over concerns that you might have or suggestions that you want to try with your kids at home. And you can really easily do that just by dialing 211 and asking for Help Me Grow.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks for joining us.